So, in the last week, a company called Social Insider has released its 2026 social media benchmarks, and their report looked at average performance based on 70 million total posts across TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X. I'm not quite sure why they chose those four platforms, maybe because they're probably the four most widely used by businesses. I would have really liked to see YouTube in there, so I'm definitely going to feed back for next year that they include YouTube too. But they looked at different engagement metrics, and interestingly, looking at the average views across platforms, it's TikTok and Instagram. It's TikTok leading the way there. So you can see TikTok are very much in number one position there on average views. So average views that TikTok posts are getting have increased by 3% in the last year. So if your strategy is to get more video views, TikTok is absolutely a platform to be considering. Looking at likes, I know a lot of you do look at your like metrics as a really good indicator of whether or not your content is being well received by your audiences. And as you can see there, TikTok videos do tend to get the most likes of all of the social platforms as well. So the average likes on TikTok have increased once again. Its average number of likes per post has increased by 12%. And you can see just how small some of the other platforms are there. So we've got going across Instagram, Facebook, and X. And it really is TikTok leading the way there in terms of likes. What about comments? Comments are traditionally a pretty tricky thing to generate these days in social media because most of us prefer to engage privately through DMs rather than leave a public comment on a person or a brand's social media. And you can see there again, it's TikTok leading the way in terms of comments. On TikTok and Instagram, there has been a decrease in comments over the last year, which does not surprise me given the predictions that we are moving towards a more private social media conversation and discussion era. You can see there, though, that Instagram and Facebook, which are in 2 and 3 positions there, are quite similar in terms of comments and how many they tend to drive. But again, it's TikTok leading the way. Looking at shares, no surprise there again, it's TikTok, and shares have increased across all platforms. So, good news, we are seeing more shares happening on Instagram, Facebook, and X as well. But it is TikTok that tends to get the most shares. And then, in terms of posting frequency, you can see that brands post on average 5 posts per week on Instagram and TikTok. There is a massive jump here for X. You can see on X that is leading the way in terms of how many posts there are being made. And that's very typical of X. It's always been that way with Twitter, where you do seem to post more there if you are active on the platform. You can see on Instagram and TikTok, it is a lot less, a lot fewer posts than on Facebook and X. However, 5 posts per week does seem to be a good activity level to go for. And that seems to be what a lot of brands are aiming for as well. Remember, this is based on 70 million posts that they are analysing, and they haven't specified exactly which region, but I'm going to assume it's the US because that's where a lot of these companies do tend to analyse their data across. So you do have to take these studies with a little bit of a pinch of salt. But I think it's really interesting to see that TikTok has managed to retain its crown as being the place where a lot of people are seeing the most engagement right now.